Hi everybody, today I'm going to be talking about what diet is best for gut and digestive health. So yeah, if you want to learn what you should eat, what you shouldn't eat, what actual components make up a good gut healing diet and what you should look for, what components are necessary to actually make this happen for you, then this video is for you. So yeah, if you don't know me already, my name is Kaylee. I am a gut health nutrition coach. I help people to overcome their chronic gut and digestive issues using the principles of ancestral nutrition as well as holistic health principles. So yeah, before we get into this video, I actually want to let you know that I just created a free training that's exclusively available in my free Facebook group. So it is on how to make a cost-effective gut healing meal plan. So if that's something you're interested in after you watch this video, be sure to check out that link to my Facebook group down below. And when you join the group, you get access to that free training and all the other free trainings I'm going to be making in the future. But yeah, so today in this video, I'm going to be talking about popular diets, which ones are gut healthy and which ones are not friendly for your gut. And then I'm also going to be talking about the 3 key things you need in a gut healing diet. And then I'm going to talk about my favorite gut healing diet and why it's my favorite. So first, actually, I'm going to talk about the 3 key things first, because then I can point them out better in the diets. So number 1 is it needs to be nutrient dense and have healing foods. So when we're focusing on healing our gut, we need nutrients to heal our gut. That is super, super important. So we actually need nutrients to go in and do the work to repair our gut lining, to seal it back up again, to repair any damage, any scrapes, any lesions on our gut lining. Nutrients do that work. Nutrients also are key for making digestive enzymes and supporting the whole digestive process for making stomach acid. So they make sure that you are actually digesting and breaking down your food and able to absorb more nutrients. Let's see, they're super helpful in decreasing inflammation as well. And there's probably a few other things that are just skipping my mind right now. But basically, nutrient density and having very healing foods for your gut is super, super important. So then also, a gut healing diet cannot include gut harming foods. It cannot include foods that are very, very irritating and harmful for the gut. It's probably obvious. I'll get more into it in the rest of the video though. And then third, it should include fermented foods. This is going to be just super, super important for your gut microbiome, for making sure that it's got lots and lots of good bacteria and is very diverse in its different good microbes. Yeah, so those are the 3 key things you want in a gut healing diet. So I'm going to talk about a few popular diets that are not good for your gut. So the first one is vegan vegetarian. And if you're wondering how I know this is not for your gut, it's not just through research, it's through experience. I was vegetarian for 10 or 11 years, I think 10 years. And for a year and 10 months of that time, I was vegan. That is the time my digestive issues were at their absolute worst. And when I was vegan is the time they were at their worst, as in like, I only had 2 bowel movements a week. My stomach constantly hurt every single day. I was always bloated. I felt like I wasn't capable of digesting food. I was never hungry. It was just a big darn mess during that time. So let's look back to those 3 key principles and see why that did not work well at all for me. So 1, nutrient dense. A vegetarian is a lot better than vegan, but still it has the same flaws, just to a lesser extent. A vegan diet is not nutrient dense at all. If you're familiar with any of my other work, you probably know this already, or if you're already familiar with ancestral nutrition, plant forms of nutrients are not as bioavailable. We don't actually absorb as much nutrients out of plants compared to animal foods. Plant foods just do not contain as much nutrients as animal foods do, and these nutrients are often in the wrong form where our bodies have to convert them into a different form. I'll give you one example. Vitamin A in plants, it's in the form of carotenes like beta carotene. We cannot absorb this super well. And when we do absorb beta carotene, we have to convert it to the animal form that we use called retinol. And we're just terrible converters. We get like max, like 20% of it actually converts over, but that's like the max amount. I hear different numbers all over the place, but it's usually a lot lower. And some people are a lot worse converters too. It really depends. But if you just eat liver or some really good quality eggs and butter and good quality meat, then you just get retinol right away. You absorb it really well. You use it really well. You don't have to convert anything. So this is one example, but it's true for tons of nutrients. It's true for iron. It's true for, let's see, vitamin K. It's true for omega-3. Other ones as well, but those are some main ones where it is. And there's certain nutrients you just cannot get on a vegan diet as well. And one of the most important foods for healing your gut is absent on a vegan vegetarian diet, and that is bone broth. You can't get collagen. Collagen is so important for healing your gut, for healing your gut lining, for reducing inflammation in your body. It's important for a million things, but you don't get it on a vegan diet. So this is really concerning. You just do not get the nutrients you need for your body. It includes a lot of gut harming foods. So I mentioned this in my anti-nutrient video, but basically plants that are high in anti-nutrients, which are grains, seeds, nuts, and legumes, are very, very harming to your gut. Those anti-nutrients are very bad for you. And on a vegan diet, you are pounding down plants, even if it's whole foods, you know, obviously processed foods, alcohol, tons of sugar, all that stuff's going to be terrible for your gut. But even if you're eating like a healthy whole foods vegan diet, you're going to be eating tons of beans and grains and nuts and all these things. If you're doing raw, it's even worse for you. So it contains a lot of gut harming foods. It could absolutely contain fermented foods though, so it could be okay on that one, but it doesn't have those other two, so it's really just not good for healing at all. And I just know this from personal experience. It was so awful for me. Even when I went back to vegetarian after vegan, my digestion got better from just eating tons of eggs and cheese. I just ate so much eggs and cheese when I was vegetarian again. And then, oh my God, when I added meat, it was just instant relief almost. It felt so good. I was so happy. I'm actually going to be talking more in a video real soon about my whole vegan vegetarian journey, but that's the recap on that one. So then the next one I have of a popular diet that is not good for your gut is going to be a raw diet. I want to specify this is a raw, more plant-based diet. It doesn't have to be fully plant-based, but we're not really that concerned with like raw meats, raw egg, like raw carnivore. That's kind of different. That can be okay. It totally depends on the person. But I'm talking about eating lots of raw plants. So basically, if you watch that anti-nutrient video, there are more anti-nutrients in raw foods when you ferment them, when you sprout them, when you soak them, when you roast them, when you cook them. It decreases the anti-nutrients and it makes them so much easier to digest. Also, when you're cooking, you're usually adding fat, and that really helps with the nutrient amounts in it, nutrient intake. And then it also helps with the digestibility. It just makes it so much easier to digest. So raw diets are very harmful for your gut because it just contains a lot of raw, really difficult to digest foods. And if we're talking, well, I am talking about raw plant-based diet. Let me just specify that right there. That's not going to contain a lot of nutrients for the exact same reason. Yeah, it's not going to go well. Then if it's raw, I don't know if they count fermented on raw or not. So I guess it could still contain fermented foods, but it still doesn't have those first two that are really important. So then my next big no-no diet for gut healing is a low-fat diet. Fat is so important for everything, including healing your gut. You need fat so badly. You need fat to be able to digest your food. You need fat to make bile to digest fat. You need fat to be able to absorb fat-soluble nutrients like vitamins A, D, E, and K. So if you don't have fat in your diet, you're probably not going to be absorbing those fat-soluble nutrients, which are super important for healing your gut lining. So fat is just so important for a million things. It's important for your hormones, it's important for your skin, it's important for your energy levels. It literally helps make up your cell membranes. Like, it helps pad your organs. It's so important. So low fat, just, it cuts out really important nutrients. Then as far as like including gut harming foods, low fat is just telling you one thing you're not eating. So it doesn't really specify what other foods you're eating. So it doesn't really apply here. And then also, again, it doesn't really specify with fermented foods or not, but avoiding that fat is not going to do you any favors if you're trying to heal your gut or you're trying to be healthy. So then I have one more diet that I wanted to touch on for the not gut friendly. And with this, it depends. It depends how you do it. So it's more of a concept I wanted to touch on. But basically the whole if it fits your macros or Weight Watchers kind of approach. This is more the if it fits your macros kind of one, where it's like, oh, as long as it fits these like more number kind of criteria, it's fine. I can eat what I want. Like, as long as I get this much carbs, fat, and protein, it doesn't matter what the actual food is. That's a terrible approach. It's just not a good approach. It doesn't consider nutrient density at all. It doesn't consider if the food is gut harming or not. It doesn't really expand on fermented veggies too much. But yeah, if you have some kind of approach like that, like all I have to do is hit this number, all I have to do is eat this amount of calories, like that's not enough. You really need to be including specific foods and avoiding specific foods if you want to heal your gut fully. So then now I want to talk about some popular, I guess, diets that are actually very gut healing and that are very gut healing. So the first one is the Ancestral or Wise Traditions diet, which you've probably heard me talk about like a bunch. But basically, so when I'm talking about an ancestral diet, I'm talking about eating like our ancestors did. So basically, this is whole, real foods, avoiding anything processed, avoiding vegetable oils, obviously. And then it's also focusing more on nose to tail, eating the whole animal, and putting these nutrient-dense animal foods first. It includes fermented veggies, fermented dairy as well, just fermented foods in general. And then also, there is a huge emphasis on properly preparing your plant foods. So sprouting, soaking grains and legumes, toasting or soaking nuts and seeds, really reducing anti-nutrients. So this takes into account which foods are harmful for the gut, limits them, and prepares them so they're less harmful. It also has a huge emphasis on what are the most nutrient-dense foods and making sure you get them in there. Big emphasis on nose to tail, getting lots of collagen from the collagen-rich cuts of meat and lots of bone broth as well. And it includes fermented foods. So it checks all three of my main things that I want to see in a gut healing diet. And it's just my favorite one. It makes so much sense to me. It's basically what have humans thrived on for hundreds of thousands of years. Okay, this is the habits they thrived on. Let's implement that. So that is amazing. And the reason I said Wise Traditions diet as well is because the Weston A. Price Foundation, they call it the Wise Traditions diet. And I really like that name as well because it makes so much sense. These are very, very wise traditions. So that is one of my favorites because it's amazing. And my second favorite, I just wanted to check if there was anything else I wanted to say about that. My second favorite is GAPS. So the GAPS diet is also wonderful. I use ancestral diets with just a few kind of emphases, I guess. Like I really emphasize getting bone broth and getting fermented veggies in. That's what I use with the majority of my clients. With my clients that have very severe gut issues like Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis or just very, very severe issues, I use the GAPS introductory diet, which is very, very specific and targeted to healing your gut. It's a very specific diet, but it's really, really wonderful. It was created by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, and she's been in this industry for a very long time. She's done this with a lot of people and just found phenomenal results. Her own son had autism, and she was looking for a way to cure it. She basically cured his autism through diet alone, and she found these huge connections between different basically like brain issues like that, other things like bipolar or schizophrenia, things like this actually have a very strong gut connection. So she has healed people of so many different conditions beyond what you would think are actually connected to your gut through these methods, and now she calls it the GAPS diet. So I really, really like these principles as well. It's actually pretty similar to an ancestral diet. It's just a little bit more specific, especially the GAPS intro diet is very, very specific. But yeah, I really like that one. It absolutely includes all three of those key things. So then the next one I want to mention is keto. This isn't perfect for everyone, especially if you live like a very stressed life. If you're struggling with stress, this is not the best one for you. It just really depends. You don't have to do this, but I want to mention that it actually is pretty effective for healing your gut. It depends how you do it, obviously, but if you're focusing on eating nutrient-dense foods, which most people, I think, when they go to keto, end up going to a lot of meat and animal fats, which are very nutrient-dense foods, and they're not including a lot of carbs, which are the main foods that do have high anti-nutrients, so you do end up avoiding a lot of gut-harming foods. And then it doesn't really specify on fermented veggies, but I would absolutely recommend those. I actually did keto for a while, and that was very helpful for me for gut healing. Again, it's not necessary, but I just wanted to mention that it is actually a very gut-friendly diet. Carnivore, same kind of notes here. It's actually extremely effective for very severe gut issues as well. So ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease. I would still usually recommend more of a GAPS diet. There's also a GAPS no plants diet, which is basically carnivore but adapted more specifically for healing your gut. But yeah, just note, some people are so sensitive to any kind of fiber anti-nutrient plant that a carnivore diet can be absolutely super healing. So it takes into account the nutrient density, and it also avoids gut harming foods. So it is pretty, it can be very effective, but again, it's not necessary for a very large number of people. Like I said before, the majority of my clients do very, very well on an ancestral diet alone. So then animal-based is pretty darn similar to what I was just talking about, but it's just very high emphasis on avoiding anti-nutrients. So yes, it's super nutrient-dense food. Usually animal-based people are more nose to tail focused, so nose to tail is great too. This is focusing on nutrient density, avoiding those gut-harming foods. Paleo is also decent. Well, I shouldn't say decent. It's good too. I just get sad that it cuts out dairy because I love dairy. But paleo is on the right track. The whole foods approach. Usually there's a focus on meat and some animal products as well. And avoiding grains. And legumes. So like 2 of the hardest foods on your gut. So paleo is a great option as well. Pro-metabolic is great as well. It's very, very focused on eating meat, animal foods, and very nutrient-dense foods. It's avoiding grains and legumes and high anti-nutrient foods. Very, very focused on your metabolism, making it work very strongly. Yeah, that's a great one as well. And then the last one I have is the vertical diet, which is probably not as commonly heard of as the rest of these, but this is created by Stan Efferding, I think is how you say his last name, and he's like super fit, strong in the fitness like industry, lifts weights and is really good with sports nutrition. So he and another guy created the vertical diet. So this follows very similar principles that I was talking about. This is more focused on training and sports nutrition, but he specifically had in mind that he wanted a gut-friendly meal plan pretty much. So this is very focused on like ground beef and bone broth and rice and some other things like that, but he definitely considers the nutrient density element and also the not including gut harming food. So I just wanted to mention that that is a good option as well. Yeah, so basically to recap, well, actually, just another note here. You do not have to follow any kind of diet with a label. The reason that I looked over popular diets was just to give you a little bit of a better idea of how certain ways of eating could be beneficial or not beneficial, and how when you do start cutting out certain groups or focusing on certain groups, like what to look for healing your gut. So your diet does not have to have a name by any means. A lot of the ones that I mentioned that are gut healing aren't focused on being very diety. They're more just looking at, okay, what's healthy, what should we eat, what's nourishing, what's good for us, like ancestral diet, wise traditions kind of diet. It's not trying to be a diet. It's really just trying to look at what foods do we thrive on. So that's really the key important thing here. This is not about picking a diet that you want to do. It's about understanding that eating nutrient-dense healing foods, avoiding foods that harm the gut, and including fermented foods are the three most important things that you want in your diet for gut healing. And they're also just excellent for overall health as well. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found that helpful. If you did, please like it, give me a comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I talk about gut health, I talk about ancestral nutrition, stuff right along the same lines as this video. If you know anybody that you think could benefit from this, feel free to share it with them. All of these things help me out a ton. I really appreciate it. And yeah, don't forget to click that link below to join my Facebook group. And I post lots of free trainings in there, or I will be posting. It's kind of new right now as of making this video. But I will be posting lots of free trainings in there that will exclusively only be available in that Facebook group. And yeah, the first one is up now. And again, that's on how to make a cost-effective gut healing meal plan. So it perfectly branches off of what I just talked about. You learned a few things. Now, how do you put this into a meal plan, and how do you make it cost-effective so you're not spending a bunch of money? Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you later.